Well, hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is John Craig, and I am the pastor along with Sandy here at Life of Worship Ministries in Amarillo, Texas. Together we pastor this congregation, and it is so good to be part of your life this evening. And those that are picking up this broadcast, this streamcast on the archive. So anyway, there you go. We are here walking in spirit and truth, and I am at the front of our sanctuary where we have a place where our worship team sets up and all that. It's good to be in this place, and I am going to be continuing with the same message out of Ezra. For Ezra, or two Estras, for Ezra as it's here in the Sefer. I'm going from the Sefer version and looking at this, looking at some of these, these truths that are being revealed, these things that we're digging into, things that Ezra said 400 years before the time of Messiah, and how relevant they are and how they ring true. And so we're going to continue digging into that this evening. And I hope that you're going to get some things out of it, because I certainly have. And it's going to give us a setup for next week, which really digs deep into some symbolic, prophetic words that were given to Ezra. So keep in mind that everything we've been talking about in the last several weeks, this is all building to Ezra chapter 10, and 11, and going forward, that is just full of tremendous information. So who are we? We like I said before, we pastor here at Life of Worship Ministries in Amarillo, Texas. And so if you are ever in the area on Shabbat, we would love for you to stop by and be part of our tour portion, which is at noon Central Time. And if you are not in the area and you want to join us, we are at our YouTube channel, and we're at noon, and we do broadcast. You can be part of the chat, and we broadcast our Torah portion at 12, from basically 12 to 2, and then we come back at 3 o'clock with a time of praise and worship and ministry time, followed by a message. And that praise and worship and the message time we call our encounter service. And we are talking about all sorts of tremendous things. A lot of information is coming out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And in fact, the writings of Ezra for Ezra are all part of those writings that were not kept in what we call our 66 book canon, and let alone the 39 books that are in the Tanakh. But I think it's just as relevant, and I think it's just as powerful. And because the words that Ezra received, it's more than just the writings and his documentation of the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem after the time of captivity in Babylon, but it is this walk that he has that's very much like a walk that you and I have as we pursue Yah, as we follow the Torah, and we dig and we work and we process through life and try to get meaning out of it. And that's some of the things that we're seeing here in Ezra. By the way, not only do we also have the time on Shabbat for the Torah portion and for our encounter service, but we also have Walking in Spirit and Truth every Tuesday evenings. But you can also join Mark and Sandy on Thursdays, where they do the show Planet Chapter. And then also Sandy and I do the Monday morning War Room together, followed by Monday edition of Let Us Reason Together. So those are the different times that you'll see us here on the Lamb Network, and we appreciate Mark giving us the platform for us to do that. Okay, with that said, I do want to say this. Thank you for those that have joined in and have been able to give a financial offering, and or have even brought a tithe to us. And we certainly appreciate that. We want to say, hey, we are still needing to work through these financial issues, just as it's a financial challenge for many, many people and many businesses and many ministries right now. Well, Life of Worship, if you feel like you get value out of what we have here and what we have to offer, and those things that the Father's put in our heart, and so that we can deliver that message to you and to others that are out there, because remember, these things are our archive, so the message continues and it's timeless, and you feel like it's warranted and you feel like it's worthy, we certainly would appreciate your partnership with us financially, let alone as a prayer partner. at Life of Worship. So there at the bottom of the screen, you see www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org, and you can go there. There's a donate button where you can click, and or you can go to our website and you'll find our mailing address. And from that mailing address, you can use the snail mail and drop a check in the mail, money order, cash, seal it up real well, and send it our direction. We will put it to good use, and it'll also help us get caught up on the bills that we need to pay. And as we also have bills coming forward here in December that must be made. So please prayerfully think about that. And some of you have been very blessed, and we would certainly appreciate your generosity. Let's just put it that way, and that you would be blessed in that giving. All right, with that said, that's all I'm going to say about that tonight. And I'm going to go on into for Ezra. Now, what have we been talking about? First off, Ezra. Who is the guy? Well, he is a priest in the lineage of Zadok, which is in the lineage of Phineas, who's in the lineage of Eleazar, who's in the lineage of Aaron, and of the tribe of Levi. And so this is, he's a Zadokite priest. He is holding true to the priesthood and true to his office. And so this is what is extremely interesting, is that the Zadokite priesthood and the restoration of the rod of Aaron, you can see that message as it is brought out in 4 Ezra. So, hey, shalom there, Eddie and Tammy. It's good to see you guys here joining me online today. All right, so anybody else that's in there, go ahead, check in at the chat room. I'd love to see you. And if you have any thoughts or comments, if I can, think in 2 different dimensions, maybe I can correspond with you that way. And all right, so not only is he a Zadokite priest, but he is a person like many people that have been called into ministry. And I'm going to tell you this, many people called in the ministry. Every one of us has been called into ministry. We just wear different hats, and we have different roles and we different positions, because in the ministry, shall I just say, it is the walk of Torah as a Talmudim, as a disciple of Yeshua the Messiah. And what does the disciple do? Learns everything at the feet of his teacher, and then goes and does the same thing. So what did Yeshua do? Well, Yeshua came to earth and to this planet. He walked this earth and he healed the sick. He raised the dead. He cleansed the leper. He forgave sins. He laid down his life. He brought the good news and the good tidings that was originally, as it were, originally delivered to Abraham. And that good news still continues today. He laid down his life, and so that is the excellent example for us to follow, and that let him come and fill us. He poured out his spirit after his ascension upon his Talmudim. They went forth in power. And so let's not forget that what he did, we shall do also. Even greater things is what he said. Well, Ezra gives us, and one of the things that I have found, and you see this in the prophets, you see this among Yah's people, you see it even in Moses, you see it among those who love Yah and want to walk according to his purposes. And what is one of these themes that we see in 4 Ezra is that Ezra bemoans the fact that the people of God seem to be trampled down and are having struggles, and when the wicked prosper, then why? And why is this happening? And so we've seen him go through 2 different cycles of fasting. And in the 2 different cycles of fasting and prayer, it's 7 days. And so he goes, in fact, he has this time, and he's bemoaning the fact of everything. And he's told by Yah to fast and pray for 7 days. And then after 7 days, then he gets this download. And then after this download, he turns around and Yah says, hey, I want you to fast 7 more days, and I'm going to add to the message. And so he does. And that's where we're at, where we're on this message that's continuing. And then guess what? There's going to be 7 more days, and we're going to get to that here shortly. Well, where we left off last week was in Ezra, for Ezra chapter 8, verse 50, where it says, "For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the earth, because they have walked in pride. But understand for yourself and seek out the glory for such as be like you. For unto you," and he starts to list these things. Now, okay, what are you talking about? Well, he's just gone through this fact saying, man, my heart is sick for the people that are in misery, the people that love Yah and are seeking after Yah, and yet they're in misery on this earth. And Yahweh says to him back in 47, and he says, "For you've come far short that you should be able to love my creature more than I." So think about this. Ezra is like, this story that he's given Yah and how he hurts for Yah's people, and here Yah comes around and almost like a rebuke, and yet it's really loving. And it's just, only Yah can say it this way, a rebuke that just feels really, really good. What? Yeah, a rebuke that feels really good. He says, in other words, there's a recognition that Ezra, in this position and in this calling as a priest, and yet Yah says, I recognize that, but it's way shorter, way less than how I really love them. And so here's the silent backside of this, is that you really love them, but just think about how much more I love them, and therefore, considering their condition, how much more I grieve for their condition. That's what I'm seeing this. "For you come far short that you should be able to love my creature more than I, but I have ofttimes drawn nigh unto you and unto it, but never to the unrighteous. In this also you are marvelous before El Elyon." In this also you are marvelous before El Elyon, that in that you humble yourself as it becomes you, and have not judged yourself worthy to be more glorified among the righteous. Isn't that just to ponder on that here's that you can't even love like I do, but I recognize that you lay your whole life down, humbling yourself, and that's just marvelous. That's just amazing. And I just think, wow, to have that type of attitude before Yah and to love his people that much more, I just think how much I need to grow, how much deeper of a person I need to be in order to embrace that. But that's where it brings it up to verse 50, where we left off last week. And here Yah shares this secret. And he says, "For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. Great misery shall be done to them in the latter time for them that walk in great pride." So in other words, he just recognizes the humility and this humbleness that Ezra has, and says this is in contrast to the people in the latter times. The people in the latter times are going to be walking in great pride. And I just think, I'm like, well, if we're living in the latter time right now, isn't this is a description of the people around us? Look at all the pride going on in these days. That's right, Eddie and Tammy. Think about this. We have a month for pride. It's Pride Month. It's June. We have more special occasions for a particular small, really minuscule part of the population that that celebrate pride and their multi-rainbow colored flag that they have, and the abomination that's going forth. Think about that. In the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. The great misery shall be done to them. Great misery shall be done to them. Now, I'm not saying that that's an exclusive group that calls themselves and their movement this pride movement, and y'all know what I'm talking about. But think about all those that celebrate it with them. They may not be of that community, but they celebrate, and with all their signs and all the flags in their schools and in their classrooms, in their movies, and in the media, and in their songs, and all these different things, celebrate it with them, celebrating diversity, so to speak. But that is joining with that spirit. So, but what about those that are complacent and apathetic? So it's like, okay, so that's their stuff. That's not my stuff, and just ignore it while those events are happening, and while those months are happening, while those special days are happening, and they just ignore it. Is silence not just a way of agreeing? I think it is. And so it is in and of itself, apathetic silence is a perhaps pride. I don't know. Something to think about. For unto you is, but then get this. So now going back to the character of Ezra, and in verse 52, listen to this. This is amazing. I mean, always like, well, this seems so basic. No, think about this revelation that Ezra is getting at this. He says, for unto you, Ezra, paradise is opened. The tree of life is planted. The time to come is prepared. Plenteous or plenteousness is made ready. A city is built, and rest is allowed. Yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. Let me put that all together now. For unto you is paradise open, the tree of life is planted, the time to come is prepared, plenteousness is made ready, a city is built, and rest is allowed. Yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. So think about what one of the things that we were talking about in the prior discussions that we've had. That Ezra was told about this narrow path, this rugged, narrow path that two can't walk together on. Each one has to go one by one. Everybody has their own walk. They have to go through the obstacles themselves. And on one side is fire and the other side is deep water. So it's very treacherous. Yet at the end of the broad path, so this is the path of life, and it's the path of Torah. And at the end of the broad path is a great reward, which is a broad field and a beautiful city where there is great bounty. It's a bountiful area. And this is another connection to that. There's the tree of life, and the time to come is prepared. I just love that. And then a city is built. So there's that city in the field, in the broad field. Rest is allowed. Now, if you actually take a look at that, well, what is the rest that's allowed? Well, the first thing that came to me is over there in Hebrews. If you want to go over to your Hebrews chapter 3, verse 11, where it says, and I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. And then this word of caution, take care, brethren, lest there should be any one of you an evil, unbelieving heart in falling away from the living Yah. But encourage one another after today, as long as it is still called today, lest any of you be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. So here's this walk, this journey. I mean, don't give up. Don't give up. Don't get distracted to the left or to the right. There's fire and there's deep water. It's very treacherous. Don't give up. And then chapter 4, verse 1, therefore let us fear, lest while a promise remains of entering his rest, any of you should seem to have come short of it. So where's the rest? It's the broad field. It's the big city. This beautiful city comes down from on high. That New Jerusalem is what we're looking for. For indeed, we have had good news preached to us, just as they also, but the word they heard did not profit them, because it was not united by faith in those who heard it. Well, what was the word? That was the Torah. And it didn't profit them because they didn't unite it in faith. I like that. Okay. In those who have heard. Isn't it? I just think about this. Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, okay. All those that at one point in time that were at Life of Worship, and when we started keeping the feast days, we stopped celebrating Christmas and Easter, and you were offended and you left us. And then as we follow the feast days and we recognize that there was more, and we saw that it was on the seventh day that y'all rested, and we shifted our services from Sunday to Saturday, and you called us as becoming Jewish, when in reality we were doing the Bible things in Bible ways, and we started following that path, and you shook your fist at us, and you said that we entered into deception. But did we, or did you stay in deception, not willing to come to the truth? Just saying. I mean, I'm very passionate about this. Hey, Linda. Hey, it's so good to see you. And hopefully Luann, I don't know if you're on there, Luann and Linda together, but awesome. So good to see you guys. So, I mean, all right, guys, it's time to repent of our ignorance of all this. But going on, okay, don't let me get sidetracked, okay? I'm just, are y'all with me? Please tell me. Okay. I know, because we've walked this how long we walked this path, and we just like, would you please come with us? Come down this path. Journey it together. All right. For indeed, we have had good news preached to us. I'm sorry, I'm pointing my finger, but my hands just can't stay still. For we have had good news preached to us, just as they also, but the word they heard did not profit them, because it was not united by faith in those who heard. Oh, you're under the law. Oh, you are, trying to keep your salvation by works. Guys, you need to dig deeper. All right, just saying. All right. Verse 3, this is Hebrews chapter 4, verse 3. We're going to get back to Ezra. For we who have believed enter that rest, just as he has said, as I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although his works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he has thus said somewhere concerning the seventh day, or the seventh, and Yah rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again in this passage, they shall not enter my rest, since therefore it remains for some to enter it, and those who formerly had good news preached to them failed to enter because of disobedience. He again fixes a certain day, today, saying through David, after so long a time, just as been said before, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, he would not have spoken of another day after that. There remains, therefore, a Shabbat rest for the people of Yah. For the one who has entered his rest has himself also rested from his works, as Yah did from his. So, I'm sorry I'm reading so much, but it really goes with this passage in Ezra. For the one who has entered his rest has himself also rested from his works, as Yah did from his. Let us therefore be diligent to enter that rest, lest anyone fall through following the same example of disobedience. For the word of Yah is living and active and sharper than any two-edged sword, and piercing as far as the division of the soul and spirit, both joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Okay, all right, so what's going on here with Ezra? Ezra keeps having this repeating theme, and this theme is we enter by faith, we secure our reward by following his word. Now, you know where people stumble is because a lot of times those of us that have been following the Hebraic roots of our faith, we use the Hebrew word Torah. So for all of you that have been in the church and you've been following Yeshua, and you say, I just want to follow his word, let me tell you, the substitute, parallel, congruent word, it is the same as word, the scripture, Torah. Torah is the living word. These are the instructions of Yah that bring forth life. Now we're on the same page, right? Linda, you said, you're in a cult. Yeah, we were told that, right? Right? And yet the thing is it's our responsibility is to find that word and to do it, to be a doer of the word, not a hearer only, as James spoke, the brother of Yeshua, James, Yaakov, the brother of Yeshua, the president of the Jerusalem Council, who was in charge, a descendant of Zadok, like Ezra. Okay. All right. So let's go on. So here's that promise. And so for verse 52, for unto you is paradise open, the tree of life is planted, the time to come is prepared, plenteousness is made ready, a city built, and rest is allowed, yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. Well, what is the wisdom of Yah? The wisdom of Yah comes from following his word. Okay. But it is the practice of it. That is the way. That is the way. And the way that Yeshua is the way, the truth, and the life. But the way has action to it. There is a behavioral change. We come into alignment with that, right? Okay. So moving on. The root, now here it is. 53, the root of evil is sealed up from you. Now this is good. This is good. So he just gave us this list of things that because you came to this understanding and lived it out, Ezra. So he's talking. So this is for all of us, right? The root of evil is sealed up from you. Weakness and the moth is hidden from you, and corruption is fled into Sheol to be forgotten. Sorrows are passed away, and in the end is showed the treasure of immortality. Now, all right, so let's keep this eternal perspective. Remember, I talked about eternal perspective last week, that there's nothing more that awakens the soul in terms of understanding our place in eternity, not just this place in this temporal realm, but where our temporal realm meets the celestial realm, where our temporary life meets eternity. And we recognize we just have this little bit of time by which to secure that. And here he says, look, and because of this life that you live, Ezra, then this evil that you see, even this proclivity to mess up, it's going to be uprooted and sealed away from you. These weaknesses, it's gone. It will be wiped away. This corruption thrown into Sheol, and it is to be forgotten. And all these sorrows past, and in the end, the treasure of immortality. The treasure of immortality. So all those that have gone before us, all those that have walked through this walk, all those who have carried through life to the best of the knowledge and the revelation and living according to the revelation that they've had, is shown the treasure of immortality. Fancy words. Yeah. I'm just using the translation that they gave me. All right. Okay. All right. So moving on. And therefore ask no more treasures concerning, or no, and therefore ask no more questions concerning the multitude of them that perish. For when they had taken liberty, they despised El Elyon, thought scorn of his Torah, or they thought scorn. Okay, think about that. Let's put it in another sense. They thought scorn of his word. So all you word of faith people, if you say, well, but the Old Testament doesn't apply. It's only applies to the Jews or whatever. No, you're scorning his word. You're scorning. It's just this is just a loving rebuke to all those that have been with us in the past that somehow may be picking this up on the Life of Worship YouTube channel, and you say, you know what's Pastor John and Sandy saying nowadays? I'm trying to pull you into this walk. This walk, it's more than what we've ever dreamed of. And yet, in ignorance, we forsake the Torah. And this is where he says, for when they had taken liberty, for when they had taken liberty, they despised El Elyon. Yeah, grace. You know that grace movement? Oh, grace, grace, grace. Oh, God loves me, and he's so full of grace, and where they've taken and abused his mercy. And so it's okay for me, not to have discipline in my life, to live according to his word and the characteristics of what a lifestyle and following Yeshua should be, because of grace. So I can just go out and do whatever I want to do because I'm under grace. Well, they took their liberties, and Yah says that by doing that, they despised El Elyon. Now, isn't that not sobering? And it says, and then they thought scorn of his Torah. Oh, it doesn't apply. Oh, you're being too Jewish. Oh, you're, this Sabbath. We could never do anything like that. We worship on Sunday. Well, you follow the Catholic Church then. You're just a protester, but you still come under their umbrella because you follow their ways, right? Okay, sorry for my sarcasm. And forsook his ways. Yeah, you adopted just another religion, a religious pattern, a type of Yeshua, but not the Yeshua that came to us in the first century. I'm sorry, don't mean to be so sarcastic. Sometimes we can't allow the cynicism of life get us down. Maybe that's what Ezra felt, just like bemoaning the fact that people would reject God's word. Verse 57, moreover, they have trodden down his righteousness. Grace, 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 grace. They've trodden down his righteousness. I'm just going to live what I want to do, and so whatever. And if I make it even to church on Sunday or not, hey, we're under his grace. And I was going to be careful there. I was going to say more, but I'm not going to. And said in their heart that there is no Elohim. And said in their heart, there is no Elohim. Yea, and that knowing, they must die. Wow. Basically, when we scorn his word, if we scorn his word, we are really denying that he exists. Because if his word is no longer living and active, like we read over there in Hebrews chapter 4, if it's not living and active, we're saying that God is dead. There is no Elohim, just like Ezra said. Yea, and in that knowing, they must die. For as the things aforesaid shall receive you, so in other words, just as you, Ezra, get your reward. Remember what we said earlier, the paradise open, tree of life planted, time to come is prepared, plenteousness, all that, the city that's built, rest is allowed. So thirst and pain are prepared for them. For it was not his will that man should come to naught, but they which be created have defiled the name of him that made them, and were unthankful unto him which had prepared life for them. And therefore is my judgment now at hand. These things have I not shown unto all men, but unto you and a few like you. Then I answered and I said, Behold, O Yahweh, now have you showed me the multitude of the wonders which you will begin to do in the last times. But at what time? You've not shown me. But at what time? So he's asking the question, when? Now, I want to go back. What is this thing about so thirst and pain are prepared for them? So let's just do a little quick reminder over in Luke chapter 16. So remember the parable, this story that Yeshua teaches, he's telling his disciples, and it's Luke chapter 16, verse 19. And there was a certain rich man, and he habitually dressed in purple and fine linen, gaily living in splendor every day. And a certain poor man named Lazarus was laid at his gate, covered with sores, and longing to be fed with the crumbs which were falling from the rich man's table. Besides, even the dogs were coming and licking his sores. Okay, this is the story Ezra is telling. He's like, y'all, look at your people. Here's another way Yeshua is telling the same story, talking about Lazarus and his horrible condition that he's in. And yet, here's this rich man. He's living in the broad field now. He's living in the city of abundance and bountifulness now, but he's not walking that narrow path. Now it came about in verse 22, and it came about that the poor man died, and he was carried away by the angels to Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died and was buried. And in Hades, in Sheol, he lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and saw Abraham far away and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried out and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool off my tongue, for I am in agony in this flame. But Abraham said, Child, remember that during your life you received the good things, and likewise Lazarus bad things. But now he is being comforted here, and you are in agony. So, and then he goes on and says, well, if you can't do that, at least send Lazarus to my father's house, because I got 5 brothers that are like me. And warn them so they don't come to this place of torment. So, this message, separated by 400 years, is reiterated by Yeshua, and it isn't this, and this message that Lazarus has is just so powerful. It's very, very sobering. I keep using that word sobering because it is sobering. But then so Ezra says, but when is this going to happen? When is mankind and those who follow you and follow your way, when will they see their reward? And when is it that mankind, this majority of people on earth, when will this demise take place? And so he's told this thing, and it's very interesting because we've heard this message. I think we see it in Ecclesiastes, we see it over in Song of Solomon, we see it in other places, and he says, and when, and Yahweh is answering him back. He says, and when you see part of the signs past, which I have told you before, then shall you understand that it is the very same time wherein El Elyon will begin to visit the world which he made. So in other words, look at the signs in the past, and when those signs in the past are repeated, then there's going to be a visitation by El Elyon in the world. In other words, to know we study the the beginning in order to understand the end, because he tells us the end from the beginning. That's the truth. That's the principle. And that's the principle that he's saying. So we know what's happening in the end by what was taught to us, what we know from the beginning. Where El Elyon will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be, where there shall, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shall you well understand that El Elyon spoke of those things from the days that were before you, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world has a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. So there you go. So it was told to us from the beginning. How many times? But what was the key? He says, when there shall be seen earthquakes. Didn't Yeshua tell us that over Matthew 24? Yeshua said the same thing over Matthew 24. Let's go over there and look at that real quick. Man, it's amazing how things rhyme. So Yeshua is, in one sense, in one way, is reiterating what Yahweh told Ezra. Or shall we say Yahweh is once again telling us in the time of Yeshua the same thing that he spoke to Ezra, where it says in 24:8, but all things. Oh, wait, let's go before. For nation. Oh, no, go before that. Verse 5. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and will mislead many. And you will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars, and see that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet. For nation will rise against nation. Uproar of the people, and kingdom against kingdom, and in various places there will be famines and earthquakes. There will be famines and earthquakes. But all these things are merely the beginning of birth pains. Then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you, and you'll be hated by all nations on account of me. And at that time, many will fall away and will deliver up one another and hate one another. So, what did he say? Earthquakes and uproars of the people. Well, tell me, what's been happening even in our current events? There have been more protests, more uproar of the people in the last several weeks around the world. People have piled out into the streets in protest. Even this weekend, there are protesters that shut down the Manhattan Bridge in protest, uproars of the people. It's happening in Europe. Hundreds of thousands of people, uproars because of what's happening in the Middle East right now, in Israel and Gaza. Uproars of the people. Earthquakes are there are more earthquakes now than ever in all of recorded history. Earthquakes. So we are here at the time of El Elyon's visitation. For like as all that is made in the world has a beginning, and so even so, the times also of El Elyon have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. And isn't that where we are right now? Effects and signs. These are signs. These are signs that El Elyon is having a visitation with us, and shall be able. Verse 7. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my Yeshua in my land, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders. For I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Then shall they be in pitiful case, which now have abused my way. So let's go back and look at this again. And so He says, verse 6, even so the times also of Elyon have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and in endings and effects and signs, and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape. How do we escape? We escape by his works and by faith. We escape by his works and by faith. So how do we do that? We keep Torah. We keep doing the things we know to do, the halakha, the walking out of the scriptures. Everything that we learn, we walk it out. And it says, and by faith. And by faith. Because why? Because this faith walk, following in the footsteps of Yeshua, this is how we demonstrate our faithfulness to him. Because a substitute word for faith, this word emunah, which literally is more than just a belief system, but it is a description of faithfulness and loyalty. So his word is delivered and we're loyal to it. And we keep it, whereby you believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Then shall they be in pitiful case. Okay, all right. So that's how we get through here. And then he goes back. What about the others that are not escaping by his works and by faith? Okay, so the ones that don't have works, that is, they're doing the works of Torah, I'll show you my faith by what I do. Those that don't do that, then shall they be in pitiful case, which now have abused my ways. Okay, grace, grace, grace. I can do anything. I'm under grace. And they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments. For such as in their life they received or have received benefits, like the guy with Lazarus, the rich man. For such as in their life have received benefits. And there's a lot of people, by the way, have not received benefits. They just ignored it. And so even those that dwell in poverty and just have had horrible lives, they've lived a life of just abuse of drugs, abuse of relationships, abuse of money, abuse of all these different things. Okay, even in the lawless, just lawless state that they're living in, it's just a violence or whatever, that's the best they will ever get, which is really sad. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me. Depart from me, I never knew you. And they that have loathed my Torah, while they had yet liberty, and when as yet a place of repentance was opened unto them, understood not, despised it. The same must know it after death by pain. And therefore be not curious how the wicked shall be punished and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, whose the world is and for whom the world is created. Yeah, it's real easy. And I mentioned that book, The Divine Revelation of Hell, which is like, you see the torment of those that is described right here. That's their end. That's their reward. And then he's told, Ezra is told, don't ponder on those things. Don't inquire. Don't do that. Don't think about that. I want you to inquire on how the righteous shall be saved, because that's who this world belongs to, this world, what this world, who the world was created for whom the world is created. Then answered I and said, I have said before and now do speak, and will speak it also hereafter, that there be many more of them which perish than of them which shall be saved. And then he gives this analogy. He says, like as a wave is greater than a drop. Think about that. Think about all the drops of water that's in a wave. Like, go surfing much? Or, I don't. I've never been surfing, but I've body surfed. When you think about those waves and all the drops of water that make up that wave, that is how it compares those who perish to those that shall be saved. So that's really, really a sobering thought. So now this next part right here, Ezra's told. He says, I want you to do something now. Because I got 7 days, another 7 days for you. I'm going to download more stuff because you've been asking about the future, when this time comes, how things are going to be laid out. I want you to go out and I want you to consider these things, but I don't want you to fast anymore. But when you go out, I want you to go out into a field. I want you to get away from the people, get away from the city. I want you to go out there. And I do not want you to fast. I don't want you to eat any meat, and I don't want you to drink any wine, but I want you to only eat flowers. I mean, the translation here says flowers. And in verse 26, he says, so I went my way into the field, which is called Ardath, like as he commanded me, and there I sat among the flowers and did eat of the herbs of the field, and the meat of the same satisfied me. So in other words, I got my nourishment from these herbs, these flowers of the field. And my heart was vexed within me like as before, and I opened my mouth and began to talk to El Elyon. So this is for another 7 days. It's kind of like a Daniel fast, basically. He's on a Daniel fast. So he's gone 2 weeks now, not eating anything. And now he says, okay, I don't want you to fast anymore that way, but I want you to eat like a Daniel fast. And don't drink any wine, don't eat any meat or anything like that. Don't have any other good dainty pastries or cakes or cookies or potato chips. I just want you to go out there. And in the course of this, he begins to have this conversation again with Yahweh at the end of 7 days. And that's where we're going to pick it up next week, because he begins to have this vision. And this vision is, he opens his eyes and he's vexed. He's hurting for the people, and he's remembering that how our fathers came out of Egypt and they went into the wilderness, and they were brought the Torah, and that Torah was to bear fruit in them, and they would be honored by following the Torah. And in this, he says they didn't do it. They didn't keep it. It was sown into them so it could grow into them like a fruit tree would grow in them. They would bear much fruit. And they did not receive it, and so they perished. Like we said over there in Hebrews earlier, they didn't enter into Yah's rest. But the Torah still does not perish, okay? It still continues. It does not perish, but remains in force. And so when he sees this, then he is mourning, and he's hurting within him, and he looks over and he sees a woman who has come out of the city, and he hears her wailing and crying and lamenting. And it takes him out of this spot where he's at, and he's looking at her, it's like, what's going on? So like a good person that we should all be, and really carrying that the heart of the priest, he goes over and says, what are you mourning about? Well, that's where we're going to pick up next week, where she begins to talk about what it is, but then she transforms before his very eyes. So it's not a real woman that came out of the city, but a vision that gives him his eyes begin to open up to what's even more and what's ahead of him and what's about to be revealed to him. So, all right. So that's where I'm going to leave it for tonight. And so that was going through for Ezra. That was in chapter 10. That's where we're still in chapter 10. And that's where this whole new vision is going to open up and to us in chapter 10 and 11 and 12 and more. There's more 7 days. There's another passing of 7 days too that's included in all this. Maybe we can get to that at some point in time here in the future. So where can we get copies of this book? Well, it's part of the pseudepigraphal books or the apocryphal books that you can look. I think you can see it if you have eSword. You can actually download the version of eSword. You can get a PDF copy online for Ezra, and so that you can read it for yourself, and go back and review some of these different things. Because I also, if you want to get a copy of the Sefer, I mean, this is the version. This is not the latest version. You can get the latest version. Let me put it right there. There's the Sefer, the Olive Tav Sefer, which Dr. Pigeon's publishing, the Sefer publishing group puts out, and Dr. Pigeon is part of that. So that's where I have it, because he put all of these extra books in here. So yeah, look it up online. You can get it. It's available. It's in a lot of different ways. I actually have it in a couple other versions that are on my eSword, and you can download those and add those to your eSword if you use that. So yeah. Okay, cool. So are y'all getting something out of this? Is this, to me, it's very sobering. And if you want more of this, just, let me know. If you don't, you're like, I wish you'd go to something else. Oh, by the way, I want to say this. So let me know. I'd like you to be honest with me. But going forward, coming up in this Shabbat, you want to stick with us for the message. Pastor Sandy's got this message. We're going to continue. She had lost her voice this last week, was not feeling well. So we're going to continue with that on Shabbat. Join us at Life of Worship Ministries for our message. I'll be putting that online. You can at our Life of Worship channel. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up for tonight as well. And so that way you can, when you subscribe and click that notification button, whenever we go live, you'll get a notification and you can join us, and if at least pick us up on the archive. All right. That's it. That's what I'm going to say tonight. We'll see you next time. Shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.